these amazingly bold women.
So, we have someone who uses her 18 years of experience to put an impact on a society on topics like child sexual abuse, domestic violence, female genital cutting through the medium of visual arts and cinema. Today, she successfully runs two non-profit organizations and the Hands of Hope Foundation, which works on child rights issue, as she mentioned before only. Her awards include the Thousands of Women of Asia Award, Shurveer Award, the prestigious Women Have Wings Courage Award, USA, and the We the Women Her Award. In India, partnered by the UN Women. Additionally, her recent film on domestic violence is now creating a wave internationally.
None other than Insia Dariwala. Next in the guest, we have one who is a director, writer, media strategist. She's also a TEDx speaker, life coach, social entrepreneur, animal and environment activist, and one of the driving forces behind the Make Earth Green Again mega foundation, Positive Farm Sanctuary, and Zindagi Helpline. She is a global award-winning writer and director for Sare Sapne Apne Hain. She has also won rave reviews across borders, winning over 128 awards, and have been screened in over 150 national as well as international film festivals. So she's none other than Anusha Srinivasan. Please put your hands together for her.
Our third guest is an author, journalist, and a screenwriter based between Mumbai and New Delhi, India. Her work has featured on a platform such as the New York Times, Scrolls, The Wire, Democracy, The Daily Eye, and even on MTV Asia, BBC News, and the lines goes on. Additionally, Selina is the co-creator and a co-host of a mixed route and offshoot and forthcoming seasonal postcard series. She is currently working on her first novel. Give a round of applause for our guest, Selina Sheth.
I think the journey chose me. I didn't choose this journey. It was already predestined for me. And I just took the path and walked on it to my utmost determination, devotion, honesty. And it's been a journey of almost now 21 years. So I've come a long way from where I began. In fact, I resonated a lot with what Anjali said, because I went from being a copywriter to becoming somebody who was a script consultant in Bollywood. Then I went from there into television, from television into documentary, from documentary into fiction. And now I think I use every medium of the visual format to tell a story. And I do that also I run two nonprofits which work on child rights issues. So I use the medium of street play, art installation, poetry, photo campaigns. And one of my photo campaigns actually changed the legislation in this country on child sexual abuse. So I think, as I said, it's all, a predestined plan for you that the universe has. And we just become that over time. So my calling was not to be bold. In fact, like we were discussing, what is that? And why is it just used with women? We never say, what a bold man. We only say bold women, right? So I would say brave, courageous, talented, brilliant. That's what we are. And I'm going to ask my question. I'm shooting my film next week. I need somebody to do the BTS. If any students are interested, please contact me.
See, now, I just want you guys to imagine, there's one guy, good-looking guy in shorts and t-shirt walking inside. So we just look at him and say, it's a man. You're looking, right? But you don't call him bold. Now imagine one girl walking in with a t-shirt and shorts, then she becomes bold. The entire universe wants to marry Jaya Bachchan and have her in bed like Mallika Sherawat. Which one is bold? The Jaya Bachchan who married Amitabh Bachchan who had nothing, or the woman who left her career and let him grow? And probably is still reaping and feeling sad that kya kiya yaar maine. So boldness is a concept that everybody likes. Suppose I wear shorts, I am bold. I wear shorter shorts, I am bolder. And if I am 20 years younger, I will be bold and beautiful. Chill yaar, jeene do. Matlab, that's the whole point. But why am I being categorized, put into a slot, fixed? The woman who gave birth, men don't. So obviously she was bold enough to give birth to a person who could judge her also with her sexuality. So boldness is something that is a question mark. When I was young, I used to play cricket with the boys. I was bold. I got married out of my community. Bold. Then I had 2 children and I got divorced. Bold. And when I wore sari at 50 and decided इतना बड़ा बिंदी लगाऊंगी, bold. आज जीन्स टी शर्ट पहन के आज भी bold. But end of the day मैं कौन हूँ यार? और आप कौन है जिसको मोल्ड में डालोगे और मुझे जज करोगे? For me it's not a calling. For me it's about each of us who look within and decide whether are we capable to judge the next person. So we should not label people. Bold, dud, idiot, stupid. और कुछ भी मिला तो बोल दो. If you sleep with a guy or a slut, if you don't sleep you're a whore. Label तो मिलना ही है. So where do you even fit? So the most important part is 90% labeling इधर ही होता है भाई. बाकी 10% आदमी को मिले ना मिले वो भी आदमी ही देता है. हाँ वो तो वो वाली औरतें जिनको लेबल से प्रैक्टिस हो गई है. कभी सास भी कभी बहू थी. सो बोल्ड कौन है मेरे को प्लीज़ कोई बताओ. ये जो बनारसी साड़ी में बेड से उठती है और इसे पालना घुमाती है और उस 3 बार मिहिर बदल जाता है तभी भी वही कर रही होती है, वो बोल्ड है. सो वी नीड टू स्टॉप लेबलिंग वीमेन. We are just who we are and we would like to be who we are. I am sure each of us has that feeling. जब वो हट जाता है ना, so then फिर बाद में तुम bold बोल सकते हो. लेकिन bold with, oh my God, she's bold, हाँ? ये क्या होता है भाई? तू भी तो bold ही है, तू चड्डी पहन के आ जा. मतलब it's just that. We need to open our minds and stop labeling women. My calling is very simple. At 52, I am the hottest woman in the universe. किसी को कुछ problem है, tell लेने का. I look into the mirror every day and tell her, you are hot, babes. When I colored my hair the first time, my children told me, Amma, what is this? I said, सोच ले कि pink color का hair, pink color के shoes, pink color के earrings और pink color का lipstick. ये मोटी बार भी हाँ. This I will come outside your school and say, hello babu. He said, नहीं माँ, अच्छा लग रहा है color. So bold वाला space ही नहीं है. जो दिल करे वो करने का. Today if I don't dress up, ना like this dress, I'll go. My kids will say, you didn't dress up today or what? That whole convention of thinking what's happened to my mom, why has she gone bold, has now become cool. They don't even bother. When you believe in yourself, what you exude is the aura. And nobody else can tell you whether you're a coward, you're a bold. We all have multiple personalities, yeah? We have millions of feelings inside. One day you're sad, one day you're happy, one day you're bold, one day you're angry. How do you define a person by one day of character? आज सुबह तुमने वो हमको वेलकम किया. सो यू दैट ओनली, मतलब ट्रेडिशनल वुमन विथ नथ. तो वैसा कैसे होता है? सो ये जो मोल्ड में डालने वाला प्रॉब्लम है ना, इसी की वजह से मैं यहाँ बैठी हूँ. क्योंकि एक तो मैं मोल्ड में फिट नहीं होती, साइज वाइज एंड ब्रेन वाइज ऑल्सो. आई डोंट थिंक आई फिट इन टू एनी मोल्ड एंड नन ऑफ यू शुड. एंड एज वीमेन, आई मीन आई लाइक मेन टू, बट एज वीमेन आई थिंक एनीबडी फिट्स यू इन अ मोल्ड, तेल लेने गया. यू आर हु यू आर. Stand up for what you feel like and say what you want to say with boldness. That is bold.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I think that Anusha and Insia have said it absolutely brilliantly about how labels can really harm us rather than help us. And I remember that when I started in my profession many years ago, as a television writer, then as a film writer, now as an author, there was at that time this urge to put women into the good category. Women had to always be pleasant. A woman only did something wrong to avenge something that had been done to her. And we've obviously moved away from that stereotype. Now women have to be bold. Women have to be warriors. Women have to be kick-ass. So haven't we replaced one set of stereotypes with another set of stereotypes? And that isn't really what's getting us anywhere. I think in the arts, in our daily life, as women leaders, as women creators, we have to strive for multiplicity in our stories. We have to tell stories not just of women who are strong, but also women who are weak. Women who are human, women who have vulnerabilities. There is an urge right now in our society to, like I said earlier, make the woman a warrior and make her something superhuman. And I don't think that's doing justice to what women really are and what women are capable of in so many ways. And there are a couple of points I'd like to make on this subject of labels and bold in particular. Bold means different things to different people. You know, it's not just superficial, it's not just how you dress or how you talk, it's also your life experiences. It's also what you are in some situations and what you're not in other situations. And I feel in general that using a word like bold, especially for women, actually negates what women are and are capable of. It erases the intersectionality of women. It's like saying if you're bold, you can't be so many other things because you've already been classified as bold. Right? So that's one thing. And the other thing I feel is that it undermines the expertise of women. A lot of times when we're asked to describe a woman who's done a really creative piece of work, we talk of her work as being bold. We don't talk of her work as being brilliant. And bold and brilliance are two different things. Men are always called brilliant. Men are always called geniuses. Men are always called innovative and strategic. And women are always bold, brave, hardworking. So we have to think a little bit. I love men and I love women. We have to think a little bit about language and how language impacts talent, self-worth, recognition. And I do feel it's very important for women to start using language that befits them as multifaceted people rather than as categorizes themselves. And I think men need to do that too. Institutions need to do that too. And we need to move away from stereotypes and talk more about humanity, about vulnerability, about failure. You know, it's not just about, let's make a film where the woman is strong and the heroine. What about the woman who failed, or the woman who's an addict, or the woman who made terrible mistakes and messed up her life? That story also needs to be told. So I do feel, as my co-panelists have rightly said, labels are a thing of the past. Let's move forward and let's tell stories of multiplicity and nuance and depth rather than sticking to the stereotype. Thank you.
Ma'am, as you mentioned, first we have to think from ourselves, like if someone is calling us bold or something, so we have to think, are we or not, or whatever it is. But it also depends upon our family background. So what do you think, how your family supported you to be the way you are?
It all begins with family. I used to play cricket with the boys in my gully. The only underarm player in a team of men. Obviously, they never fight with me. Mukka maar diya, wapas nahi maar sakte. See, that way when you are bold, it works. But when your family doesn't support you, when you grow up to be being that way. But point है कि कपड़े bold नहीं करते तुम्हें. Attitude bold करता है. You don't have to be brave all the time. You can be courageous. It's very important. And what is very important for a woman is to always stand up for another woman. When you stand up for another woman's rights, your rights come to yourself. It's very, very, very important. Because a lot of times it's not just, the society is not about just having men. Na? वो patriarchal society का time चला गया, सब jeans t-shirt पहन के बैठे हो. But somewhere inside who you are is what you are. And who you become is not somebody whom your parents always mold. And when you find your true calling, you can become anything you want to be. You become an astronaut, you become an astronaut, it's your choice. But enjoy that life.
There are a few things that I have experienced in my life's journey. That when you start on a path, you need to unlearn everything that you have been taught. I mean, that's the first step. हमारे दिमाग में चलते रहता है कि am I being too bold? But whose voice is that? Who decides what is too bold? Where is that voice coming from? It's coming from perhaps your society, your family, your relatives, your friends, coming from a place that has got nothing to do with you. So the first thing is that you need to shut out that voice and then move forward with whatever you believe is your true voice. And not everybody has the, I would say, the luxury of growing up in a very privileged home. Okay, I started my journey as a child in a 100 square feet home. For 17 years, a lot of poverty, faced all of that. And I've spoken about this a lot in my talks because I think a lot of people who see me sitting on a podium, they're like, wow, wow this, wow that, my awards are being talked about, but nobody knows my journey, right? And that journey was only possible because it was like, when you're boarding a flight, you're allowed only a certain amount of luggage. There is a reason, because the higher you go, you need to go lighter on your luggage. So I have been shedding, leaving behind everything that has not worked for me, or that is not working for me, or I don't require. And that's how I've moved in life. And honestly, I don't know whether this word bold, where and why it was invented. I mean, Selina is, the author, and she could probably shed more light. But I think over the time it has been used very frivolously. Like, I'll give you a small anecdote. I made my second film called Cocktail. Okay, not Imtiaz Ali Wali Cock. This was Cocktail. It came after the Nirbhaya rape happened. And in fact, Anusha was the PR person on that film. And when that film screened, it screened in many, many different cities of India. It was a very controversial film. It was about the mindset of a rapist. It was not about rape, it was the mindset of a rapist. And it won its own share of awards. When my screening in Delhi got over, I was visited by a gentleman, and he happened to be a producer. And he came and told me, Shabash, मुझे भी एक bold film बनानी है ऐसी. And I looked at him and I was like, okay. And I didn't understand what he meant by that. So I told him, I said, what is the subject? What are you looking for? And he said, पता नहीं अभी, but bold film बनानी है. एक ऐसा धमाकेदार bold. And that word bold stuck with me. And I was like, am I now being stereotyped as somebody who's making bold films, because my first film was on child sexual abuse. My second film was on the mindset of a rapist. In fact, my third film is on an issue that I don't know how many people of you have heard of female genital mutilation. It's on that, which I'm going to be shooting next week. I don't know what's going to happen after that comes out. I mean, I'll be put somewhere as a, putla and say bold written on it, Exactly. So this word has become very synonymous for the wrong reasons, I think. And maybe in time, we as women, and as Anusha rightly said, that when a man achieves something. Also, one more thing what I noticed is both Anusha and Selina, they gave disclaimers that while talking about men, they said, we love men. Okay. Now, the very fact, I love men too, I mean, no doubt on that. But the very fact that we have to give disclaimers like that, because we are scared that if we don't, then we will be labeled as these feminists, who are out to get men. No. Does a man ever, and with no offense to all the men sitting, you all are wonderful, we love you. But I don't see any man giving this disclaimer while making a misogynistic joke or a statement, Like, I see so many memes on women, so many Insta reels on women with no disclaimers. So where is all this coming from? It's fear, right? Because somewhere even the word feminism has been misconstrued. I don't think patriarchy is about man. Patriarchy is a system. And the system victimizes both men and women. So while a man has this stereotypical role to be a provider, to be, the protector, to come home and, be this, he could be tired from the entire day's work, but he still has to fulfill some duties at home. And then when you look at the woman's role, today the woman is also going out and earning her bread, and she's coming home, but she's still expected to cut the bhaji in the train before coming home. and go home and cook and do all of those things. So while the roles are getting, they are getting interconnected, men and women are coming on the same platform, the society and the system is not allowing for this union to happen because it works for them. And I think all the men sitting here and all the women sitting here should ask themselves one question, that if we just do away with these, definitions and just look at ourselves as humans, no matter what gender we belong to, because now there is a third gender that is being recognized and we need to be inclusive. What are we looking at then? Can we be compassionate towards each other? Can I as a woman look at a man and say that, yeah, you have had it bad? And I know that for a fact because I work on child sexual abuse, and I don't know, again, how many of you know here, but more than 50% boys in this country have been sexually abused, and we don't talk about that. And there are men then who are growing with so much of unresolved trauma that it's going to come out in different ways. So I think we need to have these conversations. Maybe they are bold. maybe we will be classified as bold conversation. There might be tomorrow, today there is this, don't just call us bold, call us women. Tomorrow there will be, a category of bold topics. Whatever it is, let's do away with the labels, like Anusha said, because I think it's the need of the hour now, that we just look at each other as humans. I mean, look at what's happening around the world. Man, woman, child, whoever, we all are suffering, So just we need to come together, get rid of the labels and do what we can.
Selina, you spoke about language and the
Yes.
importance of language. So the English language describes women as the weaker sex. So you're already handicapped in that sense, damned by the language.
Yeah.
So do you think the fact that women are therefore called bold is a result of the fact they have to fight against the label, the weaker sex?
Yeah, I'll just take that. I think that's a great question, because I think that a lot of the words we're using today, like bold, are actually were meant to be cast in a progressive light, as a reaction, as you're saying. And I don't disagree with that. I think I'd rather see a woman taking a bold action on screen than somebody who's being abused, submissive, and tolerating it. Our point was that stereotypes, when they aren't analyzed long enough, continue to be their own slave. So now we have a lot of films like Marvel Universe, for example, where you have to cast a woman who's going to do stunts and who's going to teach a man a lesson. And I feel that I wanted to add one point to what Insia was saying, is that having sat in countless meetings on films, where we discuss characters, where we discuss portrayals of women in television, I feel like you also said about this point about weakness. We, each of us, have to get rid of our own biases, because we all come programmed with biases. And one thing that I found disturbing in a lot of creative meetings is that people aren't interested in pursuit of truth. They want something to fit into their notion of what already is. So we're not creating new characters. We're saying that woman, how she was in that movie, like that. We're not thinking anew. We're not being surprised by people. Women are weak, women are strong, women are weak and strong at the same time. I mean, I had huge anxiety coming here. You can say that's a weakness. You can say, but you're also facing something, so that's a strength. So we are different things at different times. And sometimes we're different things at the same time. So I think that as creators, I wanted so much as a person, but as someone who creates, we have to start looking at characters as human beings and saying that even if you say someone is bold, for example, let them do one thing that is weak, because then that's what makes them human. I mean, we're all a mix of things, but I have found that there are so many talented writers who think this way. The problem is the gatekeepers in channel networks, in film production houses. They want to feed the stereotype. They want to feed the stereotype because they think audiences aren't open enough to acceptance. The audience is hungry for that acceptance. They're trying to do all those things. Now things, of course, I think with social media and, with so many ways of making films on YouTube, so many other options, that is changing. But we still have to let go of our biases, I think. And to come back to your point very quickly, because women, we don't want to offend women by calling them weak. We therefore cast them as bold. That's also wrong. That's not doing justice to the many weaknesses that women have.
Speaking about the language and the label.
Yeah,
But
but
you have to fight against it.
yes.
Because you're already labeled as the weaker sex. So you're beginning handicapped, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
therefore, it's like a fight. And that's very unnecessary because everyone's equal. I mean, I don't think that there's really a difference between men and women. It's just a kind of...
Yeah, and also I just want to say that, to come back to that point, we should look at truth, whatever it is. Truth means you are many things. Truth means you could be bold and very stupid. It's not necessary that boldness is admirable. You could be bold and make the biggest mistake of your life and regret it. So, labels, aside from labels, I think we should really train ourselves to look at people as many different things.
Sure. So the other thing is that boys are not supposed to cry, right? So you have, we're talking about stereotypes.
Yeah,
So that's,
yeah.
It's hard. The world is not, unfortunately, hasn't evolved as much as it should in
Yeah.
terms of mindsets. I think particularly in India, I think it will take a long time because I think Indian men are regressing. There's no question about it. You have to fight that. There's no other way. Good luck to others.
You're right in what you say, and I think that the fight should really be not to swing to another extreme of creating another extreme, but of just characters, like I'm talking now about representation, just people where we're not afraid to explore humanity. So a boy crying is not a sign of not being macho or being weak. It's a sign of the boy exploring his humanity. I think if we look at it like that, then there might be less resistance going forward. But thank you, you're absolutely right.
And in fact, I would like to add to it what Joyda said about, you spoke very well about breaking stereotypes and about being labeled. What happens is in our society, we create this whole false facade of exclusivity by labeling on gender basis. Whereas what we need more is being inclusive. We are all inclusive. And as Joyda spoke about language, in fact, all the answers and the solution are in the English language itself. Because when we say women, there is men in it.
Yeah.
And when a group of men collectively call them we men, there's women in it.
I just want to share something about my mother, who's German, and my father is Gujarati. And they met abroad, and my mother and father had this whirlwind romance and elopement and whatever. And when they came to India, my mother's been in India now for decades. My mother's parents were very scared about how she would manage because they were very simple people. They didn't know English, they didn't know any Indian language, they didn't know anything about India. And my father's mother, she wasn't very fluent in English or German, obviously, but she got a translator to write a letter to my mother's parents in Gujarati, which was translated, she got a professional to translate it into German, saying that don't worry, everything will be fine, you come. And they got along so well, two women from very different worlds. My mother was very attached to my dadi. And then years later, I see on TV the depiction of women fighting, the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law fighting. And I'm like, who's researched this stuff? I mean, I understand it's entertainment, comedy, but it's so far from the reality. There's no nuances of the kinds of things women do for each other, even though they cannot understand each other's language. We were feminists so long ago. It's in our bones. It's nothing new. So that's what I meant by, because we are so dependent on popular culture, we get our cues from movies. we get our cues from musical lyrics. It's really important to be nuanced and not make judgments because of something that we think is true. You know, just like explore and you'll realize yourself what your truth is, I feel. Yeah. But thank you, that was a lovely story.
Just wanted to add, like she said, you know, there are gatekeepers when we are creating content. And what I'm sure there are many young filmmakers in this room who want to create content. What needs to be created today is a balance, you know, like, yes, Ekta Kapoor became very famous with her Saas Bahu serials. They earned lots of money. They went into every home and they have changed the way television has been seen. But then before Ekta Kapoor, there was a DD where we had some very wholesome shows, you know, where we had shows that depicted real life of every human being in that family. It was not just focused on a Saas Bahu or the conniving kitchen politics that went on. So I think we need to kind of deviate, and OTT has, you know, done that for a lot of the programs that we see, a lot of films that we see. That too, sometimes it's questionable today because I see a lot of stuff on OTT that I don't connect with as well. It's like, you know, we are more of a herd mentality. So when we see something that is successful, that's why we rely on precedents. You know, कि Hollywood में hit हो गई है तो यहाँ पर होनी चाहिए, you know, and let's make something that is like that film. But we have such rich heritage in this country. You know, we have so many stories, and I lived in the US for 12 years, and a lot of people ask me why I'm here, because I am technically a US citizen. And क्या कर रही है यहाँ पर American passport लेके, what are you doing here in India? And I say that in India, every curb you turn, there's a story, you know. The entire topography changes, the demographics change. How exciting is that for a storyteller? As opposed to when I was in the US, miles and miles of stretches, I would see the same McDonald's, you know, replicated everywhere. And it was boring for me. So I feel as storytellers, we have a responsibility. It's not just to entertain. Yes, it's a business. There are monies that are invested. There are producers who are putting in big money. But there is also room for good content today. And we need to explore that. We need to make room for that. Whether it's classified as bold or not, I mean, I see many OTT shows that I'm sometimes, you know, flabbergasted. Like, what is this? You know, where is this come from? Because on one hand, we are showing television serials, which are all parda, parda, parda. And then there is an OTT, which is now, you know, it's showing so much that is not parda. And then you are confused. You are like, okay, how about balancing it out? Because both are happening today. And I mean, I just believe it's about understanding the human mindset, the ever evolving, you know, landscape of us as humans. As Anjali said in the previous panel, that we are always evolving as storytellers. We cannot say that, okay, we know it all, because while I'm sitting here talking in this crowd, in this room, there are at least, I would say, 60 different kind of stories. And if I was a wise person, I would make room for all of these stories and all of these characters. So just keep shedding labels, shedding the baggage, and moving forward. I think, you know, do away with the word bold is not a bad word, but I think it's been overused. It's been used very frivolously. And she just said something that I do too. You know, I get up in the morning, look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, you're hot, man. I don't know whether that's being bold, but that's being me. Yeah, and that's being me. And it's taken a long time for me to come back to me, to shed all the voices in my head that I just turned 50 this year. So for me, it's like 50 years of, you know, leaving behind all the conditioning. And now here I'm sitting and I'm thinking that, okay, this is Insia, you know, this is the real me. And the real me, I love this new person that I'm meeting, you know, so.
As a genuine, heartfelt appreciation and felicitation on a personal level, I would like to dedicate 2 lines of mine to these wonderful women, to these wonderful women and their creative journey. It just says, चलूं मील के हर पत्थर की कड़ी, चलूं मील के हर पत्थर की कड़ी अगले पत्थर से जोड़ के, चलूं मील के हर पत्थर की कड़ी अगले पत्थर से जोड़ के, ना जाने कब किस मोड़ का अंजाम हो अगले मोड़ पे. Thank you, sir.